Hello book friends, I'm Allie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another book review, the book that I finished in last week's reading vlog, The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. And overall, my opinions of this book were that it's a good book, it's cute, wasn't really my thing, but I think that other people will enjoy it just fine. So let's talk about some things that I felt like this book didn't do so well. One of the first issues that I had with this book, right at the very beginning, so this isn't a spoiler because this happens like within the first two chapters, the main character, Daisy, gets so upset that she has run into a guy that she had a huge crush on in high school. And at this point of the story, you have no other context other than she's just incredibly upset that she's run into this guy, and the reason that she's upset is because he stood her up for prom. And like this goes on for several pages where she is just so upset and angry and mad about prom, and she's supposed to be like 28 or 29, and she's also like really well off. She's got a good job. She has a good career. She has like finished school and she is making good money. She's doing really well for herself. And yet she is so caught up over this whole ordeal with prom that she honestly has held a grudge for like 10 years on the topic. And to me, that is not realistic. Most people in general are not going to be that upset if they are hugely successful later in life about something that happened at prom. Now, that happens at the very beginning, and after that, things kind of level out. She stops being quite so dramatic about the whole prom situation. There's still mention of it here and there. And it's even funny to me that some of her friends that she talks to, and even some of the friends that Liam talks to, who is the main male character, are so worked up about the fact that he stood her up for prom. He stood her up for prom, and that's like the end of the world. That's like end all be all of everything because he stood her up for prom. And I feel like that topic is just very overplayed throughout the story, and that was just a problem for me. And so whenever you leave that behind, you start getting more of like background, but the way that the background pieces together is not cohesive enough for you to really understand why she was as upset as she was at the beginning of the book until the very end of the book. Like, if you could get some of that information that happens like through the middle and end of the book at the beginning, then all of this hullabaloo about how terrible the prom situation was makes more sense. You start to understand why she was so upset about that situation. Because out of context, it just seems like a girl throwing a hissy fit over the fact that she got stood up for prom. But once you get to the end of the book and you start to see what happened and why it happened and the whole buildup of like her family and the situation that was going on with Liam and just everything, then it makes more sense. So, if you're like me and you get into the beginning of this book and you are just like, no, this is not working for me, give it a chance, because I will say that the whole reason for the prom thing, it does pan out. It just takes the whole entire book for you to actually get the full picture. Another issue that I had with this book was the characters, or the character building. And for me, I really like when characters seem very realistic. And the characters in this are just not really realistic or like down to earth. They don't make a whole lot of sense. So you have Liam is the main character, and he's supposed to be this leather-wearing bad boy who barely scraped by in high school and got by with other people like basically doing his work for him. And then he gets out of high school, barely, graduates, and then goes straight into a biker gang. And he's in a biker gang for a few years, and then magically he becomes like really high up in this, I think it's like a Fortune 500 type business where they're funding other people for, I don't really know what it's called. I don't know the words for that, but basically this business takes millions of dollars and gives them to startup companies to help them get going. And he has managed to go from almost high school dropout to a biker gang to now he's working at this business where he has, within just like 2 years, worked his way to the almost very top. And like, I don't know, in very specific situations, I think that could happen. But I don't feel like that is very true to life, and I don't feel like that's a very good character arc, because you don't go from somebody who's like a slacker and barely gets by to somebody who's like going against the law to somebody who is a fully law-abiding citizen and just like up at the top with all of these rich businessmen. It just doesn't make sense. It's very short timeline for all of that to have played out the way that it did. So for me, that's another thing that just didn't sit well with me, because it seems unrealistic. Now, as far as other character development goes, it's not so bad, other than Daisy being very overdramatic about her past and like holding grudges and not letting things go. That was a bit of an issue, but getting past that, you get introduced to characters, sometimes they're just thrown at you. Like, it mentions a character and you're like, who is that? I don't know who that was, that this person is mentioned, and like, as if you're supposed to know who it is, but you don't. And so that happened a couple times, and I was just like, did I miss something? Like, I flipped back through the book, like, maybe there was something there and I just overlooked it, or I read it too fast, or I don't know. But then I looked back and I was like, no, I didn't miss anything. I just don't know who this person is. And then, like, one of the characters specifically, which is supposed to be, I think, her cousin and her best friend, they're like, she gets introduced just by mention at the beginning of the book, and that's why I was like, what did I miss? And then a little bit further on, you start to understand who that character is, because she's mentioned a few times before you really understand who she is. And then, like, later on, she's a bigger part of the story. So overall, like, all the characters are really cute. My biggest problem was the whole Liam situation. I really liked Daisy. I liked that she's very nerdy, and she does have some character growth and development through the story, because she starts out just being kind of introverted and basically saying, I don't want anything to do with the people that I work with. I don't want anything to do with most people in general. I just want to go to work and do my job. I want to go home, and I basically want to be left alone, other than her little, like, realm of her circle of influence, that of the people that are closest to her, which is mostly family. And so I liked that by the end of the story, she's really caring about her job and her coworkers, and she's just really branching out, and she's got a lot of that really good character growth. Another aspect that I wasn't hugely a fan of was the fact that at the end of the story, and this is not spoilery, but at the end of the story, Liam's personality changes. He still kind of has that bad boy mentality at the beginning, even though he's a businessman. And then by the end of the story, he's basically like over the top, lovey-dovey sweetheart. And I was not like, it just, the character arc didn't make sense. It's another one of those that's like, okay, so you started basically like a bad boy, and now you're basically over the top romantic. And so that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. At the end, it was a little cringy how he was acting. I was like, no, not really. So overall, I think one of my biggest issues, I guess, was just Liam's character, because he was just kind of all over the place. He wasn't really fleshed out well, and his character development didn't make sense. And just basically everything about him just didn't make sense. And so I think that was one of my biggest issues with the book. So now that I've talked about the things that I wasn't really a fan of, let's talk about the things that I was a fan of. So overall, this story has that family element where you get a lot of the family being involved and interacting a lot in what's going on. And so I just really like that. I like the fact that Daisy's family is just a big part of everything, and they are all about each other. Like they lift each other up and they help each other out, and sometimes that's way overwhelming and you're like, hey, no, back off. And then other times you're like, yes, that's so awesome. You guys are the best. And so you get a lot of the ups and downs from that, and I think that that's just so well done in this book. It was super cute. I absolutely loved that aspect of the story, especially when you start seeing Liam interacting with her family because they're so involved with her life. It's just really cute. It's a really good time. Another thing that I thought was well done was the story. The fact that at the very beginning, they both need basically an out. They both need an out. And their out is that they both need, like, marriage, basically. They need to be engaged to somebody in order to fix the situations that they found themselves a part of. Whereas Liam's situation is a bit more extreme because he has a family inheritance issue where he needs to be getting married. Hers is not so bad, where she has basically just gotten tired of her family being so involved with her love life, and she just wants them to leave her alone. So her fix is that she needs to have a fiancé, so they will stop shoving potential love interests down her throat. So then you have both of these things, and they come together because they have run back into one another, and they realize that they could benefit from possibly having a dating plan and getting married. And they would just be able to stay married for a year's time and then get divorced and never look back. And of course, that's not how the story goes. Their story is so cute. I absolutely love the fake dating plan that Daisy comes up with because she's a very analytical mind. So she comes up with this plan where they're going to have dates so that they can get to know one another before they have the wedding deadline. And it's just kind of an idea that she has so that they're not just getting married out of the blue. So it looks like they're actually together as a couple, and they start to just really get to know one another. And he does like her. He never had stopped liking her, and so he still does like her. And they're just adorable. They are adorable together, and that's one of the things that I liked so much about this book is they were just really cute together. And then their story of their dating and the family getting all involved and just everything that happens is super cute. I'm glad that the story ended the way that it did. The way that it was built up at the beginning and then how she decided to wrap it up at the end was super cute and just so cheesy. I was waiting for something like that to happen, and I was so glad that it did when it finally came about, that I was like, yes, that's adorable. This is a really cute love story, just like all of the things that happen to them and how they come together and how they make everything work is just so adorable. The characters, not the best. Definitely not the best. But if you're looking for just a really overall fun plot, fun story, family elements, a cute romance, this is definitely a really good book. I know some of the elements didn't work so well for me, but that's just me, and it's just my reading taste. I think a lot of people are going to really like this. I think this book would translate really well to a movie. So if you're a fan of those books that read a lot like a movie, like the cute rom-coms, then you're going to love this because it is super cute. So that's all that I've got for you guys today. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to talk with you. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later.